just before we kind of get started, I quickly want to go over a few things that we might need before we start our edit. One thing is we obviously need our footage, and this is usually quite easy because you just have it on your phone. But sometimes when you're editing on your computer, you might need to transfer your footage from your phone to your computer, and there can be a little bit of a couple of downfalls there. For example, I've experienced quite often people who maybe send the footage via WhatsApp, which is very, very common. However, what happens if you send it through WhatsApp or Facebook chat or anything like any kind of chats like that, they compress the footage. So they take the original video footage that you've got and they make it smaller so that it's easier to send. And what happens is that it loses quality. So then if you download it from WhatsApp, let's say on your desktop, on your laptop, and you then import it, you will have not the fullest quality of the footage that you could have. So I recommend either, sending it via email, Google Drive, Dropbox. If you have like Apple devices, then AirDrop can be really, really handy and easy, but also just like a USB-C stick can be really useful. But that's something that is worth maybe having a think about before you want to start editing, just to know that you can transfer the footage. How much footage do you have? Are there maybe several people you need to get the footage from? So that's definitely something we want to do before we start the edit. Then next, we also want to have a brief ready. So this is usually something that's done in the pre-production process, but it's very useful when you do your edit to always cross-reference with your brief to make sure you kind of stick to what is happening, what is meant to be, happening, because it's easy to get lost, and we have the footage that we have, and partly we are driven by, oh, what do we have that's interesting? But if there's a brief in place, it's definitely important to have that and stick to it. Then any kind of graphics that we need to add, maybe there's a logo, maybe there's, some kind of some pictures that we want to add, anything like that, we want to have ready. Are there any branding guidelines? Sometimes organizations have branding guidelines like colors that we want to use. Maybe there are specific fonts that the organization is using. So all of these things are really, really important to have ready before we get started. Also, is there any particular music that we want to use? This is something that can sometimes be a bit tricky to get music that doesn't have any copyright issues, but nowadays there's loads of websites where you can get music to use on your videos that is copyright free, but just something to keep in mind that, if there's a popular track that you want to use, you might not be able to just due to copyright issues. So these are just a few things before we kind of really go deep into our editing process that we want to keep in mind. So let's have a look at our CapCut window here. And again, like I said, it's very intuitive. We have here on the left a few options of like the media, which is one of the ways we can upload the media, templates, elements, audio, text, captions, transcripts, effects, transitions. Then there's also some filters, brand kit. Most of these things we're not gonna need today, but again, it could be fun just to kind of explore it, see what there is. What we're gonna use right now is upload. And you can see over here, there are a few different options. So record is, you can record directly through your computer camera. And from the phone is also another way to just kind of upload the footage to avoid like losing the quality. But we're gonna go now to upload over here. Oh, just quickly before we do that, over here, you can also just drop files and upload from Google Drive and Dropbox directly. So loads of different ways that we can import our footage here. But I'm just gonna go over here to upload, and I'm gonna go to upload file. So then here I've got a few different clips, and I've got a logo here as well. So I'm gonna import that. And then it's just gonna take a little bit of time to upload here. So while this is uploading, over here on the right-hand side, this is where we're gonna build our timeline. And whenever we're editing, a lot of times, I should say, when we're editing, we're having kind of our main timeline, and then we have our B-roll, graphics, whatever we're putting on top of that. Generally, with the editing process, there's different stages, and obviously it's a personal process, and different editors do work in different ways. But just a very general way, here's a way that you could work that I would maybe suggest. I think the first thing would be that we import all of the footage that we have and that we just have a look through it all, which can take a lot of time. But what we're trying to assess here is, number one, what is footage that we can definitely get rid of? There might be a 10-minute clip where actually there's only like 20 seconds where something interesting is happening, and the rest is, you know, not really usable. There could be footage that is that where the quality just didn't turn out as well as we wanted it to be. There could be a really long interview, but actually we just need like 10 seconds of it. So identifying, first of all, what we want to get rid of will really cut down already on the footage that we have. The other thing we want to look out for when we're having that first look through our footage is what's really good. What kind of, there might be like one line in an interview where we're like, oh, that's a hook. And generally a hook for, like in social media videos, is something that grabs the listener, because as we know, those first 5 seconds of a video are the most important ones. So a lot of times content creators will sort of take something that's really capturing from their, you know, maybe 1-minute video, and they will put it at the very front before they start the video, just to create this hook that kind of captures their audience and makes them stay on the video and not scroll away. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, so that's the other thing that we're really looking out for when we're watching our footage. What really excites us, what really captures the spirit and the personality of the brand that we're representing. So yeah, so that would be kind of the first stage. Then we're gonna start building. Once we've kind of detracted, you know, subtracted, taken away everything that we definitely don't want, and we've maybe taken a mental note or even a physical note of everything that we definitely want to keep, now we can start building our timeline. And our timeline is kind of just like down here. We're building, this is where we're having like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then on top of that, we can put our B-roll, we can put our graphics, we can put, you know, we can add music to it, anything like that, we're adding on top of it. But the main thing is building the timeline. And so when you start to edit, that would probably be the first thing that I would focus on. And again, the brief might be heavily involved with this, but yeah, so I would suggest building the timeline first, then adding the B-roll, cutting that together, adding that on top, and then adding other things like graphics, text, subtitles are really important, music. All of these little elements add to a video production. Again, not every video you edit will need everything, but it's good to know how to add it all. So yeah, and then once we've added everything, then it's really the next stage will be refining it and finding any kind of little inconsistencies. This might be, for example, if we're having different interviews, the audio level might be different. And we might have one part that is quite loud, and then the next one might be really quiet. So checking the audio to make sure they're all at around the same level. Transitions, adding transitions comes in here, and making sure that there's no cuts that feel like unnatural or or jittery, might be really important here. So it's really about checking the details, and and then one thing that I quite like to do is sort of to finalize it is, number one, I like to wait until the next day to watch it again. I find that after a long editing session, my eyes are tired, my brain is tired, and I tend to make bad decisions in my editing, or just not to notice mistakes. So a lot of times, watching it the next morning with fresh eyes is really valuable. And that's definitely something that I recommend. The other thing is getting feedback from other people, of course. So you will have your team that you will probably send the edit to, but also you might just want to, share it with someone who's not involved with your organization at all, to try and get some feedback on how it translates to someone who doesn't know the organization at all. So so that's also something that I would do sort of in that really final stage. And then you're going to get feedback from your team probably, and you can incorporate that into the edit. But just to give an overview of like how we're going to work.